Hello, hey, welcome to Tyler with the K. We are a bit relocated, but we're still in the same room, so you don't need to worry. I will be talking about all the books that I read in March and April. Obviously, you probably noticed that I didn't make a March wrap-up, so I thought I might as well just combine March and April now that April is done. It's like May 11th, so we're already basically halfway through May, but we're gonna ignore that fact. Anyway, we had a pretty good 2 months here. I think I enjoyed the books more in April, but I still read a few pretty good books in March as well. So let's just get started. The first one that I read was Divine Rivals, which was read from March 2nd to 4th. I actually have an entire video about it, so you can check it out right here. I won't go into depth because I have a whole video, but I did not really have the high expectations going into it. It's kind of like fantasy, or I went in thinking it was fantasy, I guess by the cover alone, but it wasn't. There were lots of like real life things that were embedded into it, which I wasn't expecting, which made it like more realistic to me and more interesting, honestly. So yeah, I did really like that book. Also in this video, I'll be saying whether or not I recommend a book. So for Divine Rivals, I would say yes or a maybe. Definitely not a no though. Alright, the next book that I read was read from March 5th to 12th, and it was called The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, written by Donnie Walton. Donnie Walton, I think. The first thing I noticed about this, I listened to the audiobook, and it actually has an ensemble cast, which is so cool. Basically, that means that multiple people voice different characters. So it's a whole listening experience because you're not only listening to the same voice the whole time. The main person, or the person that plays Opal in this book, is someone named Bonnie Turpin. I recognize her from 2 different audiobooks that I've read. One is the Children of Blood and Bone audiobook. Children of Blood and Bone is one of my favorite ever books. It's up there. So she voiced the main character in that, which is really cool. And I thought she did a good job. And she, I think, ended up winning an Audie Award, which is like on the awards season, the award show for audiobooks. And she read all of the parts for a book called If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, so that was cool too. So I recognized her voice. Another voice I recognized was someone named Andre de Shields. He was the original Hermes in Hadestown, the musical, which is one of my favorite musicals. I actually have a sticker when I went to see it on Broadway right there. So yeah. But let's talk about the book. First note I wrote after Bonnie Turpin was kind of long and boring. It is a pretty thick book. And yeah, I went into it knowing that it was about a rock duo, and that's basically it, and I was interested in that after reading, of course, Daisy Jones and the Six. Honestly, I'd say that this is Daisy Jones and the Six, but I wrote it down, Daisy, but make it boringer and more diverse. There aren't more diverse for sure, which I appreciate the conversation that they had around race. In terms of how race, I guess, affects the music scene, I hadn't, and this takes a really interesting look into it, so I appreciated that a lot. I didn't read in one sitting or anything, and I found myself having like notes, a little motivation to resume the book, but once I did, I was interested. So like the first push wasn't there, but like once I sat down and took the time to do it, I ended up being interested eventually. But also, to contradict that, I actually fell asleep reading this, which is definitely not a good sign. There are a few audiobooks here and there which I've listened to while I'm closing my eyes just because I wanted to finish the book, but I didn't want to like pay attention. Best case scenario for me is me reading the book along with the audiobook while the audiobook is playing at 3x speed. I did that for the majority of this book, but there were some times when I just didn't want to, I guess. So I just fell asleep. I cannot believe this only took me a week to finish because it feels way, way longer. It felt like a month. It felt like a month just because it's so thick. So many things happen. Just like Daisy Jones and the Six, it's like an interview format book. So there's an interviewer asking different questions, but it also goes into the perspective of the interviewer outside of her interviewing. And it also like jumps through like Opal and Nev's like rise to fame. So like there's a lot of content in the book, so it made it feel longer than it was, or longer than it felt. It felt longer than it took to read it than it did. Does that make sense? Unlike Daisy Jones and the Six, I was not really interested in the music that they made. I don't know why that is. Like, I love music. I'm a musician. And that's why I like Daisy Jones and the Six so much, because it's a book about music. But this one, I cared more, I guess, about the people more than the music, while in Daisy Jones I care about both. There's a quote here that I wrote down: "People are real sometimey," and I have not heard, it's a really good quote. People are real sometimey. Like, you can't ever characterize a person by someone, because then they do something that is like really out of what you thought they would do, out of their comfort zone, out of your ideal of them. So yeah, people are real sometimey. I was actually thinking about that quote like yesterday, but I couldn't remember what book it's from. Uh-oh, I wrote an arrow here saying that I should have flipped them. Sorry. So after Divine Rivals, the next book that I finished was actually With the Fire on High, but by Elizabeth Acevedo, which was read from February 28th to 4th. Oh, by the way, sorry, real quick, I don't recommend The Final Revival, just because it's pretty long. I'd recommend Daisy Jones and the Six instead. With the Fire on High, anyway, I really like this one, and I would recommend it. I don't really have any problems with it. They just seem like real people, which is always good in the book. It's kind of like slice of life-ish. There's not something that the character is like searching for or anything. She just like going through, I think it's her senior year of high school. I just really enjoyed this, and I finished in 5 days, so it was obviously interesting. And yeah, Elizabeth Acevedo also has a book called The Poedex, which I also read. I would say that I like this more than The Poedex, though. But yeah, I'd recommend this. Next, we have Cosmoknights by Hannah Templer. This was actually one of the books that were on my favorite list. I think like my first favorite list in the history of this YouTube channel. So obviously it was a reread. This was the first reread of the month. Yes, it was. It's like female empowerment. I love the art in it. It's just so cool, and it brings a smile to my face. And sometimes you don't want to think as much when reading, and that's what Cosmoknights offered me. And then I found out online I had access. Everyone has free access to Cosmoknights, the first book and the second book, using the website. If you just search up Cosmoknights, I'm sure you'll find it. So yeah, I read the second one and the first one this time around on that website. I would not say it's as good, honestly. I don't really remember anything that happened, honestly. I remember what happened in Cosmoknights, the first one, but not the second. Like, I remember the end of the second, but not like the beginning or the middle. I finished it pretty quickly, I think, or I just wasn't like interested enough to focus on it, so I kind of forgot and stopped caring. One of them. For Cosmoknights 2, I don't know when I started it, but I finished on the 15th. And Cosmoknights 1, I started on the 5th, and I don't know when I finished it, but yeah. Next, we have The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. Not sure when I started this, but the bulk of the book I finished from March 7th to 13th. I unfortunately would not recommend this, although I really thought that I would really like this, honestly. It's all about grief. It is about something that Joan Didion went through in her life, like two horrible, tragic events that happened like pretty close to each other. It was sad, and we really went into her head, which I appreciated. So maybe I did read this like at a time in my life when I was also experiencing grief. So I don't know why it didn't really work, but maybe it doesn't have to not work. Not every book has to be like specifically for a person. So yeah, that's okay. Next, we have No Brainer by Jeff Kenny. I read this from March 12th to March 14th. You probably know what that is from. It's the Diary of a Wimpy Kid book series, which I actually made an entire video about. It's like an hour and 40 minutes or something. You can check that out instead of hearing me talk about it more. And honestly, I just can't remember anyway. So go to that video, see how I liked it, because President Kyler does not remember. I'll also be making a video soon where I listen to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid musical, because there is one apparently. I heard about it like at the end of last year, and I've wanted to listen to it since, so I'll definitely be making a video about that, so look out for that. Next we have Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Oh my goodness, this is such an interesting plot. I think this is the most interesting plot that I read this month, potentially this year. It's like really up there, and the execution is great as well. It is about a person in, I don't know if she's living in the 70s or something in America, but somehow, randomly, she gets transported to her past, where she has to interact with some of her ancestors, which don't have a great... They're slave owners. They're slave owners. She's black. They're slave owners. It's just like, from that plot alone, from that blurb alone, I was like, this sounds interesting. There's also a TV show, I think on Hulu, FX, which I would consider watching. But yeah, it was really good. Could do with less profanity, honestly, but yeah, it just shows. It was tough to read. I would definitely recommend this. I tried reading another book by her, Octavia Butler, earlier in, I don't think it was this year, earlier like in my booktube journey, in my reading journey, called Parable of the Sower. It's actually a duology. There's Parable of the Sower and Parable of something else, and I actually stopped reading that. A lot of booktubers that I respect did like that book though, so I respect all booktubers like that are like reading tastes are kind of the same, I would say. They like that book as well, so I think I should try to give it another shot. Maybe not anytime soon, because right now I'm just trying to really get rid of books in my library, and read books that I haven't read that I already own. But I will definitely try to give that another shot, because I really like her writing style. So yeah. Next book is The Talk by Darren Bill. I read it from March 27th to 29th. I would definitely recommend this. And it's all about being a black boy / man in America, which I am. So, thought I would read it. This is just a random, or an impulse read. I just saw it in my school library, and the cover, more the title, intrigued me, so I gave it a shot. It's about his life. It's an autobiography, so although I wouldn't say that it was entirely interesting, like I wasn't captivated the entire time, it was just cool to hear someone else's story. He's a really good artist, and he actually has a Pulitzer Prize. I don't know if it's for this book or another one, but yeah, I think that should honestly be required reading, because it's really important, I feel like is the best word I'd use to describe this book. Yeah. And now we are on to April. After I drink. So for this month, I actually read a few books from my collection. I didn't only read like online or whatever, like I did in March. So I have some physical copies which I'll be showing you shortly. But the first book that I read was One Day by David Nichols, which was read from March 27th to April 2nd. I have an entire video about it. Although I wish it was more popular, it's still public, so go check it out and make it more popular if you don't mind, please, if you're interested. I feel like it was pretty popular back in the day, like on TikTok I saw a lot, and I know it was watched a lot of hours on Netflix as well. So yeah, I have an entire video on it, but to make it short, I do recommend this book. I really enjoyed it way more than I expected to, so yeah. And now we have the first physical copy book I have, and it is called Small Worlds by Caleb Azuma Nelson. I actually read another book by Caleb earlier this year. I think it may have been the very first book that I read this year, actually. It's on my bookshelf, and it is called Open Water. Both of these are really good, although I think I do like Open Water more. I don't not like Small Worlds. It has a lot to do with music, which, as I said, I love. Hot take, I love music. I guess I felt a little more detached from the character. A big reason for that, I would assume so, it makes sense, is that in Open Water, it's actually in second person, so it says you do this, you do this. On this, it is in first person. I felt more detached, but I didn't feel entirely detached, if that makes sense. So I would still recommend it. It's more relatable to me, but I was less interested, which is really interesting. And I will also say that I didn't like the ending as much as Open Water. Now we have Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, which I read from April 6th to April 10th. I listened to the audiobook, and then eventually I got a physical copy and read along. I would say that it was a little confusing at times because it's kind of like a detective novel. They're trying to figure out what happened during a burglary that turned into a home invasion, but I did still enjoy it. It had lots of good mental health representation, which I appreciated. Um, and it actually has a Netflix TV show, which I watched. It's only 6 episodes. It's in Swedish, but yeah, it's definitely like really the first word that came to mind was edible, but like I feel like you can. It's a good like weekend show, so just to finish, you can finish it in a weekend. Frederick Bachman also wrote a book called A Man Called Uva, which I really enjoyed. So he's actually becoming like one of I don't know one of my favorite authors. I could say the same as for Caleb Azuma, but I don't know. I guess both of those authors have written 2 books that I really like. I just think Frederick Bachman has like a larger catalog, so I can read more books from him in like right now, while Caleb, I don't think he has any other books out besides Open Water and Small Worlds right now, so I can't really think about them in the same way, I don't think. But yeah, I did really like this one. Lots of like relatable lines. I know I always say this, or sometimes I say it, but I'm going to try my hardest to remember to put down either just all my notes forward for each book, or just like a favorite quote from each book, because I want to share some of my like favorite quotes. Yeah, I remember one in this one which was really good, but you have to look at the description for that. Tell Me How to Be by Neil Patel. If you see that sticker right there, that means that it is a Target book club pick. I got this book from Target, which you don't hear every day, I don't think. It was just a random impulse purchase. We were getting school supplies and I wanted to get a book, and I was originally going to get a book called, I want to say Our Missing Hearts maybe, which is by Celeste Ng. It may be that. I'm in the line to get it, the audiobook version of it on Libby. So I'll read it when it comes to me, but anyway, I decided to get this too, and instead, and I really don't regret it. I definitely recommend it. It's like one of my new favorite books, honestly. It has 2 perspectives, and the perspective of a boy, a man, and his mother. And his mom is from Tanzania. My parents are from Africa too, so that's already a parallel. And it switches between their perspectives, and there's also like a second perspective in a sense, because it says you. It says, after my birthday party, I didn't see you for a while, which is so weird. It's like we're in the perspective of who they're talking to, so they're like talking to us, but you is different people for them. Like you and the mom's perspective is a different perspective than you and Akash's perspective, who's the main character, one of the main characters. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have their voices in my head, even though I did not listen to the audiobook. That's like how good it was. I just don't think I'll forget this anytime soon. They're just real people. They're just real people. What? I can't read that. I guess I wrote love and how it shows up. This book, I think, is about love. I think this book is about love. One of my new favorite songs actually has the title of this in it, which is All Falls Down by the Alpine. The second line, it's hollowed out, tell me how to be. Which is kind of a coincidence, but yeah. I just really like this book, and I want to read Neil's other book, which is called If You See Me Don't Say Hi, which is also another great title, I feel like. But yeah, I've been very hesitant to put new books on my favorite list of books, but like this and Open Water is probably the closest I've gotten, because like I have no problems with this book. I read it in 3 days because of how good it was. I started it on the bus, I think, and by the time I was at school, I was like halfway through or something. I don't know. Not halfway. Definitely not halfway. Okay, we are nearing the end. Next book that I read was Crush by Svetlana Chmakova. I read this only on April 16th. It's a graphic novel, so it took a while. I did not say yes or no to if I recommend this book. I said maybe. I think this is the weakest out of... okay, If I'm being honest, there are actually 4 books in the Barry Brook Middle School series. The first one is Awkward, the second one is Brave, this is Crush, there's one called Diary, I guess it's 5 kind of, and then there's Enemies. Diary is like not really in it because it doesn't follow the typical format. It doesn't like follow a specific person, and I think they're like do-it-yourself aspects of the book as well, which is different than the other 4. Enemies I did not really enjoy, and I'm actually donating it because I don't like it so much, but I just don't think this is as strong as Awkward and Brave comparatively, although all 3 are on my favorite list section. As soon as I finish this book video, it will be all 3 will be going back on, but yeah, so I said maybe you should recommend this. It's broken. The pages, I was reading it and the pages started falling out, which is so weird. Like they're literally out, and I didn't do anything besides like open it. So I don't like that, which I'm not going to donate it obviously because it's not in good condition, but like I don't want to keep it either. I don't know. But yeah, I still enjoy this book. I love the series. It's like my comfort series. I can always like feel like I can pick up one of these and it'll make me feel better about my day. So that's good. But yeah, I would maybe recommend it. So the next book that I have on the list is The Traitor by Richard Paul Evans, which was read from April 17th to April 20th. This is a part of the book series called Michael Vey, and I actually made a video about the last book in that series, which was called The Parasite. You can check that out. But yeah, honestly, I did not really enjoy my time. I do not recommend it, and I said nothing's new because I feel like plot points are repeating. Like, it's a different scenario, but like the execution is the same kind of. Like, I'm just not really, I'm bored by the series at this point. And yeah, it was my least favorite book of the month. Like potentially The Parasite was when I read it last year. I know he's going to continue the series, and I think the next book is going to be the 10th or the 9th one. 8th was The Parasite, 9th was Traitor. So yeah, the 10th one in the series. He needs to rest. He needs to stop it, actually. He needs to stop it. There was a big break between the 7th book and the 8th book, I think like a few years, and then he just brought it back with The Parasite, and I just don't think, honestly, he should have continued the series at all, if I'm being honest. Just said honestly, I am being honest. Okay, next book that we have is Brave. And I said love with an underline because I love this book. I would recommend it. I read it on April 17th. It's just so good. I can kind of relate to the main character. Give it a try. I love this cover too. I love everything about it. I love everything about it. Alright, next we have Awkward by Svetlana Chmakova, which is also in the Barry Brook Middle School series. If you noticed, I actually read them backward this time. I read Crush, then Brave, then Awkward. This was the first book that I read in real life, though, like the first time I was reading the series. But I do also really like this one. I think I got it from a book sale, so yay. It's just so fun to read. Any other notes I have? Yeah. The only difference between Brave and Awkward in my notes, I just underlined the love in Brave, and I didn't underline the love in Awkward. Love, smile the whole time. Those are my notes. So, yeah. And then, the last book that I read, yes? Yeah. The last book that I read in April was Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukafka, which was read from April 22nd to April 24th. Yeah, that's right. Another 3 days. I did not, originally I circled yes, I should recommend it, and then I wrote maybe, because honestly this book is like, it's so dark, and I'm wondering why, was it necessary that I took my time to read this? Did I need to spend my life on this? It was well crafted, there were really good lines, the story was interesting, I was captivated. I don't have any problems with it, except like the subject material, because it's dark stuff. It's dark stuff. Lots of people have liked this book. I understand why, because it's good, but also it's kind of like in the vein of A Little Life. A Little Life is, I've heard, a sad book, but people say like their favorite book. So like, I don't know. This is like, it's dark. I wouldn't say it's sad. I would say it's dark. So be careful, for sure. I went in here only knowing that it was about a person that is on death row. This is another one with second person perspective. And yeah, it's the first line is "You are a fingerprint." It says you, and you're actually in the mind of the killer for some of this book, which is really unsettling sometimes, honestly. But yeah, I don't want to give it away, but I also don't want to keep it because I don't think I want to read this book again. I don't know how to think about this book, really, of this book. I don't know. I just don't know. And those are all the books that I read in March and April. Thank you so much for watching. If I have to pick, I know earlier I ranked the books. I guess I can do that real quick. Of earlier months, from favorite to least favorite. I can do that. Okay. So I would say I'm doing it on the fly. I'm not gonna include No Brainer because I just don't remember it at all. My favorite, I would say, and let's X out Cosmoknights, the first one, since I've already read it. I think that makes sense. I'd say my favorite one is probably With the Fire on High, followed by Kindred, followed by The Talk, followed by Cosmoknights 2. Oh, Divine Rivals. I forgot about Divine Rivals. Okay. With the Fire on High, Kindred, The Talk, Divine Rivals, Cosmoknights 2, The Year of Magical Thinking. Cosmoknights 2, Divine Revival of Opal and Nev, and then The Year of Magical Thinking, maybe? Sure. And then for April, it's going to be hard because this was it was a stacked month, honestly. It was really, really good. I'll X out the Awkward, Brave, and Crush because that's going to make it harder. I don't know about Notes on an Execution, where I want to... Okay, I think One Day was the favorite. Okay, then Anxious People, Small World. No, I forgot about Tell Me How to Be. Tell Me How to Be, One Day, Small World. Tell Me How to Be, One Day, Anxious People, Small Worlds, Notes on an Execution. Although it's on the bottom, I still really this is just a really, as I said, stacked month, so it's definitely harder. But yeah, just know that I like all these books, so April was a really good month. I've read, I don't know, I think 2 or 3 books this month. 3? Yeah, 3. I need to step it up because I had been trying to read 10 books a month. So, but anyway, yeah. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're gonna get back into the swing of things. I know uploads have been kind of inconsistent, but I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to have my resurgence. So you'll have to wait too. We'll get it done. Thanks. All right. Bye. Hi, I'm back. Pat post shave, and I decided to make this my February, March, March, April, and May wrap up because I haven't released the March and April wrap, so I might as well just make another part edited alt. So yeah, okay. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books this month, which is not bad, although I feel like I read a lot less. I guess comparatively to the month before I read less. I also think I enjoyed these books a little less, generally, than last month, unfortunately. It is actually June, if I'm being honest, June 4th, but okay, let's get started. The first book that I read was Behind the Song, from April 25th to May 1st. This is one of the few books that I have ever bought that was not from a Barnes & Noble. I think we were coming back from a trip of some sort, and that's when I got it. It was an independent bookstore. It just seemed interesting. It's all these authors writing about their favorite songs or songs that have impacted them. They either write short stories about it or about the songs, or just essays about what that song means to them. So it's pretty interesting. After reading the books, I actually listened to every single song about that some of the stories were based on. The ones that I added to my liked playlist on Spotify were Hotel California and Somewhere Only We Know. And another book that was like an honorable mention that I did like, if I can find it. I have so many playlists on Spotify, sorry. Give me a minute. It Hurts by 2NE1. So yeah. But yeah, some of these stories were definitely more interesting than others. I can't remember the specific ones I really liked. But like off the cusp, but probably looking through them I can figure it out. If I'm being honest, I don't read that many like short story collections, and sometimes they're honestly like hit or miss. The last one I remember reading was Black Enough, which was edited by E.B. Zabor. I think I actually have a video about it if you want to check it out. But yeah, something that I do like short stories for, or I guess I should say anthologies, which is like when multiple stories, when a book is written by multiple authors, is that like if I like a style, I can continue reading books by a specific author. Okay, these are the ones that I liked, I think. Miss Atomic Bomb, which was written by Anthony Breznican, as well as, I'm just scrolling through and remembering by the title alone, honestly. Oh, I think this was my favorite, probably. Tiffany Twisted by Ellen Hopkins, which was inspired by Hotel California. Miss Atomic Bomb was inspired by Miss Atomic Bomb. But this is really good. And I actually have a book by the author Ellen Hopkins already, which is called, it's not called Tweak, sorry. That's actually a book I read earlier, or later in this month. Crank, I think. So I should get to that. Maybe I'll read that soonish because I liked the Tiffany Twisted, her short story, so much. What's another one that I liked? I'm just looking. I didn't mind About You Now by Elisa Ludwig, but I don't think it was like my favorite. I know some of them I wish which I wish were longer, and some I honestly wish were shorter. Yeah, I'm just trying to stall time. And then City Girl by E.C. Mines, which definitely like the most interesting one, or the most like fantastical of them, which was based on Somewhere Only We Know. And it was written by, I think I might have said this already, E.C. Myers. Second Chances by Eleanor, which was inspired by It Hurts by 2NE1. And then Anyone Other Than Me by Tiffany Schmidt, which was inspired by Dancing Nancy's by the Dave Matthews Band. I also liked that story. And yeah, I think those are the only ones I liked. So maybe it was like, I don't know. I let me count them. I'll just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 14. So I liked less stories than I didn't like, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm returning this book, as in I'm donating it, because I don't need it anymore. It has served its purpose. Okay, 17 minutes left on the memory card. I don't want to go down to the wire. Okay, next one is Beautiful Boy, which I read from May 2nd to 6th. I had a copy of this book, and then I lost it. I actually lost it at my church, so I don't know where that is, but I read it in like 5 days. It was pretty interesting. I listened to the audiobook, and I've been wanting to read this book a while, because it has a book that's related to it I actually read later this month. I'll explain that when I get to it, but yeah, this is from the perspective of a father named David Sheff, whose son is addicted to methamphetamines, and it's just like his experience with having a son with that disease. And yeah, it was the word that's coming to my mind right now is harrowing. Just like it reminds me how resilient the human body can be, and like how much we can go through. Like, he kept giving his son so many chances, and unfortunately his son kept like abusing those opportunities that his father was given, and he like manipulated his father. It was a pretty tough read. So yeah, I would recommend it though, because I think it definitely let me know a bit more about like someone. I haven't read that many books about people being addicted to like different drugs, so it was eye-opening to me, I'd say. And then I read Hunger by Roxane Gay, which was read from May 6th to May 10th. I think this may have been like one of the highlights for the month. I hadn't read any other Roxane Gay books at this point, and I still haven't since I read that book, but I really like her writing style. It just talked about her journey being like an overweight person, a black overweight person in America, and I really appreciated how like she kind of personified this feeling of hunger, or like her body, like how it became how it is. It was just really interesting. The next book that I read was Tweak by Nick Sheff. You may recognize that last name because this is actually a book in the perspective of David Sheff's son, who is the person addicted to methamphetamines, who's like the beautiful boy that the title Beautiful Boy refers to, the book that I read earlier this month. So yeah, this was even tougher to read. I felt really uncomfortable sometimes, and like the more I read about drugs, the more I know I'm never gonna take them. It was just like I can't. This book felt so long because he just went through so many things inside it. I will say this was a bit more personal than Beautiful Boy, like probably because I'm closer to Nick in age than I am to his father. So yeah, it was really tough actually. I can't believe I finished it because like it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, I would say if you want to read one of them, Beautiful Boy / Tweak, you might as well read both of them. That's what I did. That's what I've been wanting to do for like a couple of months, so I decided to do just that. Yeah, I also watched the movie Beautiful Boy with Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell, and that was also good. Their performances were pretty good in that movie, and it looks really pretty. Alright, and then the next book that I finished, I believe... Did I tell you when I finished Tweak? I started it about May 6th and I finished it on the 21st. So yeah, this is, I think, the book that took me the longest to read. Never mind. That's a lie. I'll get to that soon. Next book that I finished, though, was There by Tommy Orange, which I don't know when I started, but I finished it May 28th. This is in the perspective of various indigenous people living in Oakland, California. This, which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, is like the first book I think that I've read in the indigenous perspective. I thought it was well written, but there are lots of different characters and it does like point of view shift like every single chapter, so it was a lot to keep track of, honestly. I think a reread would do me well, and I feel like just reading it to complete it, honestly, for like the last half of the book. So yeah, I think I should reread this eventually, but I don't think it was written badly. It was just like a lot to keep track of. And yeah, I definitely need to read more books from different cultures, such as like the indigenous community, so I'm glad I was able to read this book this month. Alright, this is the book that took me the longest to read. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I finished this on May 28th, and I can't even tell you when I started it. Actually, I may be able to see, because I started it way earlier in the month, in the year. February 22nd, apparently, is when I started it, because I had the audiobook on Libby, and the way that Libby works is you have like a book for 2 weeks. So I had it for 2 weeks and then it returned, and I've just been on the hold list since then to read it again. So yeah, I just didn't really want to read it without the audiobook, so I just waited. Started on February 22nd and I finished it on May 28th. So you could say this book took me like 3 months to read, but it's less than that. This book is so good. I really like it. The audiobook reader I also am familiar with. Her name is Bonnie Turpin, and I've read a few books by her, read by her. Right now I'm actually reading a book read by her called Children of Blood and Bone, which is one of my favorite ever books. I have 2 copies of it actually. That's one of the copies up there. But yeah, this takes place, I don't even know. Is it the 1960s or something? I don't even know, but it follows like a housewife in America, and things are happening. I don't really want to spoil this book. I just really like it. It was engaging from beginning to end. It's long. It is long, but like I really enjoyed every second of it. Especially from the very beginning. Like it hooked me right away. I could imagine this as a movie. I could imagine this as a TV show, and also like it's a kind of a book about book because she's like in a book club. So like the parts of the book are separated by the books that she's been reading in the book club, which is I feel like a pretty cool way to separate the books. So yeah, I would definitely. This is a book that I'd also recommend. Honestly, yeah, all these books I'd kind of recommend that I read this month. Kind of. Okay, and then the last book that I read was Holding Up the Universe, which I started on May 28th. and I finished sometime before June. This is a reread. This is the only reread of the month, I guess. And yeah, I had been wanting to reread it for a long time, so I decided just do it. It wasn't as good as I remember it being, honestly. Like, the characters are interesting, but like the length of it doesn't make up for it because I'm just kind of bored. Also, it ends up being more of a love story than anything else, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, at least in this case. So yeah, it was okay. Fine writing, fine characters, interesting characters. But yeah, I don't know. The execution wasn't necessarily there. Ha! No pun intended, because I read a book called There. Did you get it? Okay. So yeah, those are all the books that I read. Let me see how many. I have 9 minutes. Okay, I think I can do this. Real quick, what I want to do before I finish this video is rank the books that I read this month. Okay, I would have to say the Southern Book Club's Guides to Slaying Vampires is 1. And then I'd say Hunger. And then I'd say, I don't really want to rate memoirs. That feels always weird, like Tweaking Beautiful Boy. I'm not sure I even want to put in the running. Okay, Southern Book Club's Guide, Hunger, I'll just do it, sorry. Holding Up the Universe, like I don't know, it was kind of semi-subpar reading month. So that's why Holding Up the Universe is so high, even though I didn't really love it. Okay, Southern Book Club, Hunger, I already said those. Holding Up the Universe, There. I'll just rate Beautiful Boy and Tweak at the same level, just because like the reading experience was kind of tough for me. That's why it's so low. And then Behind the Song, I guess. Yeah. Did I say that? I did. One more time, just in case, to make sure. Southern Book Club's Guide, Hunger, Holding Up the Universe, There, Beautiful Boy / Tweak, and then Behind the Song. So yeah, I read 7 books this month, which is not that good. As I mentioned, no I didn't. Actually I didn't, I'm sorry. I meant to mention I'm actually graduating in 11 days. So I hope after that 11 days I'll have lots of time to read. I may just read a book a day. I'll hopefully have lots of free time, so yeah, May was kind of a fluke in terms of the number of books that I read. Hopefully it only goes up from here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm actually finishing the video this time. I'm sorry that I psyched you out, but you got more content, so I hope you don't mind. All right, I'll see you later. I'm probably gonna just change my schedule to like a video every 2 weeks, because I think that's just a bit more manageable for me, at least like since I've been in school. We'll see what the future holds. All right, bye.